and good morning to all of you, and a warm welcome to all our audience across the globe. And the panelists, a special welcome to our panelists for attending this webinar on state of digital banking in the Middle East. Thank you for your time. I am Chitrajit Chakrabarti. I lead business for BPC in Middle East and South Asia, and I will be your host today. Before I start, it is only fair to introduce BPC because today's webinar is brought to you by BPC, so a small introduction is logical and fair. So from BPC's point of view, BPC is one of the leading payment solution provider in the world. And just to encourage our product proposition in the world and in the digital space, we invest a little less than 1/3 of our annual revenue into research and development. BPC is one of the fastest growing payment solution company with global footprints in 85 countries, and we are entrusted by 230 clients across the globe. It is a great honor to serve the community and serve the industry through our products and services, and we have been doing it for the last 27 plus years. And to encourage the wider audience to come and see our developments, our solutions, we have taken this special initiative for the last 2-3 months to conduct such webinars in various regions. We were there in Southeast Asia, we are now in Middle East, and we did it in LATAMs as well. So for our audience, my experience was amazing last time when I conducted it in South Asia. So please be interactive and please don't hesitate to raise questions. Use the question answer section and raise your questions, and we would be happy to help you. In case we cannot answer all the questions, I will personally go back and revert to you personally on each of your questions which are relevant and pertinent to today's topics. So with this, let me just quickly go into the introduction on our panelists. So we have, today we have panelists from 2 different countries, and this is particularly for Middle East. And this is a fantastic mixture of panelists today we have, and I believe that from state of digital banking perspective, this will give a different perspective to all our audience going forward. So joining us from Noor capital, UAE, Mr. Abdullah Al Suwaidi, the Executive Strategy Director. Abdullah is well known in the industry. He brings in 23 years of industry experience, and he has managed several very important positions and senior positions across. Some of them just to highlight to you: founder Excellence Target, a leading management consulting and training firm, one of the industry leaders in the UAE. Abdullah was a board member and in Commercial Bank International in the UAE, and a board member in Abu Dhabi Investment Group. Then we have Mr. Joseph Khanachat. Joseph, it won't be an exaggeration if I may say that he is one of the founding members of MasterCard in Middle East. He is associated with MasterCard since 1995. Joseph is the Vice President Technology Account Management MasterCard, Middle East and North Africa. Now we have a very interesting other 2 panelists coming from Oman Arab Bank, Mr. Sreekumar Chellappan, Head of Retail Asset, Retail Banking Division. Shrikumar brings in 25 years of industry experience and has managed various senior management profile, a career banker, and it's a pleasure to have you in this webinar, Shrikumar. Another very, very important personality in acquiring business and very well known in the banking fraternity. Please let me introduce Mr. Vibhor Mundhada. Vibhor is the business manager for acquiring business, Mashreq Bank. And Vibhor has played various senior management roles across various geographies. and we will get to know a lot from Vibhor regarding Mashreq Bank, what they're envisaging, what are the next step, and what are the inputs we receive from him. So without wasting much of the time, I would request each of our panelists to spend 1 minute of your time to introduce yourself on the organization. I will start with Joseph.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chitrajit. First, let me start by thanking BPC for inviting me for this interesting event. I must say, digital banking is the new era, and everybody's experiencing that. As Chitrajit mentioned, my name is Joseph. I work for MasterCard, and I look after the technology account management for Middle East and North Africa, division. I have over 20 years of cards experience. I must say that banking is, amongst the many industries that are on a continuous evolving, journey. With COVID-19, we are now living a digital, world, and as almost, and I'm sure you all would agree with me, each and every single industry to survive, they have to, onboard, on digital. So banking, is an extremely important element because it caters for several industries. And I'm sure, we will be sharing more exciting information as we move along in this webinar.
Okay, Vibhor, if you can just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chitrajit and BPC for, getting me to be a part of this interesting conversation. I am Vibhor. I run the merchant acquiring business and digital wallets for Mashreq Bank. I'm sure most of the folks on the webinar would be aware of Mashreq. Mashreq is one of the oldest banks in the Middle East and North Africa region. Mashreq in the region is known for bringing in innovation. So innovation is in our DNA. So we were the first banks to launch ATM in the country. We were the first bank to launch merchant acquiring, credit card, and closer to the times when wallets have proliferated. We were the first ones to bring in new age wallets like Alipay, etc. in the market. Digital banking has always been at the cusp of what banks have been thinking, but as Joseph said, that with the COVID situation coming in, the pace of digitization, not just for banking, but across businesses, has accelerated. And banking is, of course, not different from any other. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today. I'm looking forward to what Mashreq's thoughts are in this space, and looking forward to hear from the other panelists as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Shrikumar. Shrikumar, if you can just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, thank you, Chitrajit and BPC, for making me a part of this conversation, and hi to all panelists and participants. I work for a bank in Oman, which is considered as the pioneers in digital transformation in Oman, Oman Arab Bank. Probably most of you might have heard of the Oman Hackathon, which is being conducted by the bank for the last several years. We have been in the forefront for digital transformation in the banking industry for the last more than around 7 years. We started the hackathon around 4 years back. Before that, the initiative started. I've been in the Middle East retail banking industry for the last 25 years. And Oman is progressing a lot with respect to the digital transformation due to various initiatives and support from the part of the government as well as the Central Bank of Oman, which I'm sure we'll be able to share in our coming discussions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrikumar. Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Abdullah. Abdullah, if you can just highlight yourself and the organization.
Good morning to everybody, and thank you for having us. Thank you for BBC. Thank you for everybody. My name is Abdullah Al Suwaidi. I'm working with Noor Capital since 2009. The company is regulated from Central Bank and ASCA since 2005. The amazing thing is with Noor is the network. The shareholders are from all GCC. and ready to be a public company and listed in any exchange. We had really in Noor big shift in 2009 and 10 to automate first the process and then moving to digitalize all of our processes and softwares, since we are focusing on investing and trading. I was also in the government for more than 20 years in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in RTA, and involved in managing some projects. The amazing thing is now they're starting on the blockchain, where we missed really, but we are on the now advisory side, helping the organizations, the government and semi-government, to automate the process and to participate in the big data, which is one of the big factor on the digitalization. On the bank side, I think we've been through a couple of projects to try to digitalize some of the activities. And I think there is a big challenge on all of this industry. And I hope that we will highlight some of it from legal side, from the back side of the operation, how is the bank, digital bank should be looking to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. And once again, thank you very much for your time. We will directly go into the topic and probably discuss certain pertinent points which are relevant to present situation and useful for the community. So I'll start with Joseph. Joseph, from your perspective, from MasterCard's perspective, I know a lot of innovations, a lot of new initiatives are being taken, especially during COVID and after COVID. So from your point of view, how digital banking is evolving in the region? What is your thought process?
Okay, so Chitrajit, consumers, as everybody, each one of us individually have experienced are, more comfortable living in the digital world, with, starting, prior to COVID and within COVID. And obviously, people are, looking post-COVID as well. Remote, working is the new norm. As we are today on a digital webinar. So many industries are so as well. Shopping, food ordering are now predominantly done through apps. We have seen from a MasterCard perspective a spike, an increase, significant increase on the number of transactions that are done digitally, be it shopping, food ordering, and so on and so forth. The trend towards more digital lifestyle is maintained with less cash usage and in-store purchases. More contactless, payments and online purchases, are taking place. Customers are eager to have more and more banking services, such as opening bank accounts, making payments, ordering checkbooks, to include overall support amongst other services. Support we have seen, I'm sure, some of you as end customers have seen the evolution of customer service. Specifically, like, looking at the chatbot, for example, the interactive, messaging, customer service. This is not limited to retail only, as corporates have equal needs and beyond. Now, on the flip side of the coin as well, I must say as well that governments are keen to see customers access new technologies, which allows them to have remote access to their funds and other banking services, especially in light of the COVID, situation, where branch networks were closed down. Hence, digital was the best means to serve customers. That's how I see things evolving.
Thank you, Joseph. To all our panelists, if you are not speaking, I would request you to just mute your mic so that no background noise is there. So we'll go directly to Vibhor. And Vibhor, allow me to explain this question. It's a fairly big question for you. See, Mashreq Bank, we all know, as you mentioned, it's a pioneer, and fintech and digital innovation is there in their DNA. So as one of the largest merchant acquirers in the region, how do you see the adoption of digital payments in the country and the region, as digital payments seem to be the catalyst for adoption of digital banking? So what are your thoughts, Vibhor?
Yes, I think you make a very pertinent point that the adoption of digital payments in a country uh, works as a catalyst to adoption of digital banking. If you look at UAE and GCC as a region, it pretty much lends itself in adoption of digital payments, digital banking due to UAE has the highest smartphone penetration in the world. It's a young population, expat population, so pretty much the consumers are already tech savvy and are ready to use all the new technology, especially mobile, right? And as Joseph was talking about, being one of the largest merchant acquirers, we have the privilege to see this shift of transactions, moving from offline to online, and that shift is pretty dominant. Uh, if you see contactless, for example, 1 in 4 transactions in the UAE is now contactless. Again, a lot of this is driven through the digital wallets like Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, because again, as we spoke about the smartphone penetration, most of the banks in the UAE and the GCC are now ready with the rails that can allow smartphones to be converted into digital wallets for making transactions. Uh, while the pace was accelerating, I think COVID is a watershed moment where we see a big shift, right? Every industry has had to improvise, right? So consumers have started to adopt to digital banking more. We always talk about cash being dirty, but cash is literally dirty in these times, right? You don't want to touch cash, and hence you see that shift towards digital payments and digital banking. So what we believe is this trend would continue. A lot of banks, including Mashreq looked at it, and we launched our digital-only bank Neo, which has been doing very well. We started off with Neo as a bank account opening tool, and it was only a bank account. And now the product is maturing into other services for our customers like remittances. So we feel that the shift is real. The shift will continue, and banks are already investing in the right technology to be closer to the customer. And digital banking, in our opinion, is not just digital outside, which is what the consumer sees. Banks need to be digital inside as well, and we as Mashreq and a lot of other leading banks are investing a lot to make us digital inside, investing into new stuff like microservices, cloud-based architectures, ability to do KYC. So an interesting thing is blockchain and the use of blockchain on KYC. Mashreq did launch it, KYC initiative with the IFC. So we believe the shift is real. The consumer experience has already shifted, and banks need to be ready. And being digital is not just being digital outside to the consumer. You need to be digital inside with the new trends of open banking, collaboration with fintechs, etc. That's shaping up.
Thank you. Thank you. And when we are talking about innovation, let me go to Shrikumar. We know that, Oman Arab Bank is investing heavily into digital innovation and bringing up new technology, which is pertinent to the community. So Shrikumar, considering such scenario, do you feel that, branch-based banking, they are running a risk, and the surge of neobank and all other fintech initiatives, they will take over? What is your thought process on that?
See, the branch banking is prevailing for how many centuries now? I don't know. So what I'm saying is branch banking is going to continue for some more time, but definitely it's in the risk of changing a lot, in the sense the branches are going to get converted into relationship management centers in the near future. In the near future means in the next 3 to 5 years time, you can see that the branches are changing drastically. The way they are functioning as of now, the cash part of it is going to get wiped off. I mean, it's going to get disappear in the near future. Like what I said, for any services, for any banking products, you don't necessarily need to visit the branch, but you will get it in the convenience of your fingertips by a few clicks and things like that. But at the same time, branches is a reality, and it's going to continue for some more time and gradually get rid of. There is there is a generation gap happening in customer segments as well. Certain generation of customers, they still prefer to come to the branch and meet with the person, have that personal touch. So that scenario is going to continue for some more time, but eventually it will get disappear, because banks are investing heavily into it, and the customer convenience is going to be the key for running any sort of digital transformations in the future. And the customer generations needs to get changed to get adopted to that. And after that, the branches will become a totally different entity altogether. Like what I said, the relationship centers, maybe a few things to get the biometric privileges captured over there once in a while, or maybe for customer interactive sections for introducing new products or something like that. But in reality, yes, branches are going to disappear, but not in the immediate future, but in the near future.
Great. And when we are talking about innovation, when you are talking about new things coming on board, let me just shift our focus, not from digital payments at all, but from a different perspective, from Mr. Abdullah's perspective. So Abdullah, if you can just highlight, there is a transformation going on from manual to in digital space, from manual to digital world. So from your business perspective, from trading business perspective, how do you see that? Because any change is good, but it takes time, and lot of other things, a lot of other elements are working in tandem. So from your perspective, what are the significant changes you are seeing?
Yes, I think since maybe 1,600, 700, 800, all this stock market, starting from Amsterdam to Bombay to US to Japan, those stock market as people, wants to trade on companies. So those was the first stock exchanges. And the trading before that was peer-to-peer. Now it's shift. There is marketplace. Always there is marketplace for stocks, marketplace for food, commerce, all of that. The big change, I think, also when the internet came, and maybe the binaries before, and the TCP, IB for the computers. So the foreign exchange, the FX market, with all the instruments, the OTC market. So there is thousands of instruments with derivatives. The volume was changed dramatically from a few millions to billions. Today we're talking about $3 to $5 trillion daily. Our part in Middle East is very small, not maybe more than 5%. Of course, it's a margin trading. So this is because of automation. This is because of digitalization. Also, we are facing now the new era of the cryptocurrency. The volume is increasing. It takes really big space. And I think the big factor is the environment in any country. In Switzerland, in Japan, they were leading the cryptocurrency industry and the Forex even before. So I think the digitalization made it very easy for businessmen to open an offshore company, at least take white label from any liquidity provider, and start their business in 1 month. So this is a big change on the business industry. Also, as the colleague mentioned about the KYC and onboarding, it's now many companies around the world and started in UAE to be automated with the word check. So if you have all the papers with you already, you can open an account within a few hours, and you can deposit money and trade. This is really something we couldn't imagine before 10 years. Now we think also there is a bad side of it. We have to be very careful. It's about we see hundreds of scammers. It's risky, volatile. So we trying really here in UAE. I think the government started, I was in the government when we were using paper. to a small service, taking 3 days, 2 days. Now it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, because all the data is there and the service is coming to you. I didn't really renew my passport or ID since maybe 5 years. It's coming to me automatically because I registered. I open my channel for payment so they can deduct. So I think this is will come to the also banking sector and financial industry. Finally, since maybe 2016 and 17, Noor Capital and other financial companies has automated their processes and provide the investor with many platforms to trade in any instrument, anytime, with any amount of money even, because it's also there is a spot and margin trading. So this is something really increased the volume huge, and I think our banks still didn't take that step to participate on that. Mashreq, for example, they have the forex department, but most of the banks really until now they didn't take step. Also good news, ASCA will very near are studying two draft regulation regarding forex and regarding crypto. So I think there will be also within 3 years a big change on that industry.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yes, change is constant and we are going through some tough times and we require a solidarity. At the same time, we require intelligent steps to follow to move forward. And regarding that, I have a couple of, one question actually for two of our panelists. I will go straight to Vibhor. Vibhor, what do you think from COVID-19 perspective, what kind of changes and what kind of differences it made over the period of last 6 months or so, wherein we talk about digital banking, and as you mentioned just now that we are talking about dirty money, but money is really dirty now. So from that perspective, what are the changes you see and how we go through and we move forward, march past these difficulties?
Sure. I think as most of the panelists have spoken about it, and I think it's pretty obvious that all the industries have been disrupted due to COVID, and I think banking and financial services has been an industry which has while we have tried to innovate, but we have still been behind the new age companies which like your Ant Financials of the world or PayPal's of the world, and we have always tried to compete and be the best that we could, and that's the benchmark that most of the banks have been looking at. However, banking has always been viewed as something that, for example, working from home in banking was something which was never even thought of. But due to COVID, for example, from Mashreq's perspective, all our investments into remote working, all our investment into cloud helped us to pivot into working from home for 95% of our staff pretty much immediately, and I think that helped us a lot. So we were able to be closer to our customers. Our people were safe. They started working from home, and I think banks would have to now realize that all the infrastructure, the people, the back office, etc., needs to be aligned and ready to move digital. And I think that's one big shift that would definitely happen. And most of the banks have already invested in those technologies, but if the banks which have not would have to rethink and invest in that, because if you don't have the infrastructure running, then banking is a complex business, and you need each lever of banking to work seamlessly and digitally. So that's the piece in terms of readiness from a bank's perspective. Of course, the shift in consumers wanting to buy digitally was seen all over the world, and it was seen in this region as well. As Joseph already spoke about delivery companies, the orders shot through the roof. The flip side of that was a lot of restaurants unfortunately had lower footfalls, and hence a lot of those business models became non-viable, but a lot of traffic shifted to the online delivery companies during the COVID times. Another interesting shift that we saw was retailers were already starting to invest into going online, building omni-channel solutions. And what we saw during these times is that the pace naturally accelerated, and we had we have taken hundreds of small retailers as well as some of the largest retail chains in the region online during this next 2 to 3 months. One thing amazing that we saw is, if push comes to shove, humans can pretty much crunch the timelines. So the projects that would typically take 6 to 8 months were finished within a month, month and a half. And we were there for our customers to build payment solutions to allow them to go online. And if you see, most of the large groups in the country already are online. And COVID has really accelerated that pace. Of course, the infrastructure in the GCC is already available. It's a carded market. People have access to internet. People have access to mobile phones, and that has really helped in making sure transactions go through. We also launched our digital-only bank, the region's only digital-only bank for our SMEs, which is Neo Biz, which followed the launch of our consumer bank Neo. We saw great traction there. SMEs could set up bank accounts on online, and we bundled in products like payment gateways, point of sale solutions, mini ERPs for running these small businesses. So all this we put in as a bundle, and it helped a lot of small businesses to move online. So that was another big shift that we saw, and we saw a big uptake on Neo Biz as well. So those are the trends that we see. If you see, the in-store traffic pretty much fell by 75% during the peak lockdown period, but we see that returning. So we are already same-store traffic we see in most of the industries has reached to 75 to 80%. E-com is definitely growing. It's growing at a tremendous pace. Some industries have grown at pretty much 20% month on month over the past 3 or 4 months during the times of COVID. And we believe that the shift is real. We believe that the shift will continue. Consumer behavior has shifted. People who were so buying online using digital modes, using digital banking is a lot to do with comfort. It's a lot to do with security. And I think the need of the hour due to COVID was for people to go online to, not just buy other stuff, but for their banking needs as well. And this shift that has happened will continue. And we see this accelerating further as we go down the years.
Thank you, Vibhor. I will quickly go to Joseph. Joseph, the same question from MasterCard perspective. What do you see? What are the differences MasterCard is creating in the market post-COVID and during COVID period?
Okay. Well, there are series of initiatives now. I don't know if some of the audience and the banking industry that we deal with have heard had MasterCard that evolved into a technology company, right? With that, there's been series of technologies that we have introduced, like the partnerships with the XPays, like the Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and all of that. From our experience, prior to COVID, there has been a series of banks across the region where some they wanted to be the first to try the new and different, and some they're more on the conservative sides that they wanted to sit and wait and learn from mistakes of others, right? Now with the COVID, as COVID came in play, we have seen a humongous increase in the number of asks from customers. And customers in our own terms are the banks. Consumers are the end consumers, the cardholders we call them, right? We've seen an increased amount of asks from our customers in the banking industry that they want to fast track their XPays and the Apple Pays, Samsung Pays enablement, because they have seen that this is something that's been evolving. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind. Some of the initiatives that we have taken into consideration during the COVID predominantly was that we have worked not only with the banks and the acquiring industry, but we have been working very closely with central banks, because they have seen that the evolution of the contactless, payments is, picking up significantly by virtue of increasing the limits allowed, for contactless. From a security perspective, the way, this works is that there are certain amounts that, you can tap on a terminal, above which, the terminal will prompt you for a PIN. As COVID, came in play, there's been a need, to increase those limits, from a health, perspective, so that, there are customers are only tapping their either mobile phones or they're tapping their cards to make payments without seeing the need to, enter a PIN to minimize and avoid that kind of friction at a point of interaction, right? Moreover, where, as lockdown had significantly increased across different markets, we have seen banks running low on stock of cards. So one of the initiatives that we have done is we've allowed, banks to allow their cardholders to continue to use expired cards that are already in circulation. One, because they were getting low on the stock of plastic. Number two, with the courier services shutting down in some markets where there were hard, strict, lockdown, courier services were not being able to deliver cards to customers, and therefore the card that is already in the hands of the customers was the only means to be able for them to transact. And therefore we had to make exceptions to allow the industry and consumers to be able to transact on expired cards, obviously taking into consideration the security measures. We put more fraud monitoring, screening in place to make sure that there is no exposure on the banks whatsoever.
Thank you, Joseph. I will quickly go to Shrikumar now, go around the room and just ask about the digital payment journey. So when it comes to the security part, so we all are talking about digital payments, flexibility, how we need to run this show and what are the new significant areas we need to delve upon. But from security perspective, how secure your platform is? If I go straight to Oman Arab Bank and ask questions from your perspective, bank's perspective, whether it is integrated with the enterprise fraud management system, which can detect various threats which are coming, and these threats are significant actually for the industry, and a lot of fraudulent activities are going on. So Shrikumar, if you can highlight that particular portion.
All right. So as a part of our digital transformation policy, digital transformation strategy, a serious thought has been given to various systems which have been using for monitoring different type of transactions. Because traditionally, bank is having a debit platform which is separate from credit platform, and some of them are outsourced. Various systems are used for cyber security monitoring, mobile banking transaction monitoring. So what we have found is we don't have an enterprise-wide solution that caters the monitoring requirements, all different types of transactions. The other part, what we have noted is the real-time monitoring is still far away at that time, because most of our monitoring systems are near real-time. Most of them are rule-based, not neural technology or anything is being used. Behavioral scoring or artificial intelligence-based monitoring patterns are not there in the systems. In fact, we are not budgeted for having such costly systems at those times when we installed these at the initial stages. So what we have found is various systems are being used. Debit card systems are monitored through a separate rule engine than credit card, and most of them are near real time. So what we did first is to leverage out of the real-time monitoring solutions provided by MasterCard and Visa. They got solutions called Fraud Risk Manager as well as Visa Risk Manager, VRM and FRM we call it. We expose those things and we try to leverage the best thing out of it, so that the transactions get monitored rule-based as well as based on the experiences of the payment associations derived out of much bigger data what they have globally, as they are the global processors. And we try to make use of those things, and then we looked into the existing transaction monitoring rules to make it more robust, more suitable for the changing scenarios. And the other thing what we did is internally we created a centralized monitoring team and merged all those functionalities to monitor the debit transactions, credit transactions, the internet-based transactions, the online banking transactions, and we also added the ATM transaction monitoring as a part of it. A lot of regulatory requirements also come up from the part of central bank. They were also very cautious to see what are the internal developments, I mean, internal monitoring the bank is using. So we were required to meet those compliance requirements as well as combining multiple systems into, I mean, what we did is structurally, we made a team to monitor all those things concurrently, creating internal skill sets so that at times of an eventuality, people can come up and support each other and move on. So digital transformation has given us a lot of opportunities to strengthen the monitoring. So I should say that fraud is an evolving thing. Fraudsters always think it's one step ahead of us. So it's an ongoing process, but yes, to a great extent, to all known risk and potential risk what we have in our desk. I mean, yes, we do have monitoring mechanism. We do have prevention steps which works round the clock. But as I said, it's emerging. We need to keep on working a lot on this, and we need to come up, what should I say, faster than the fraudsters to be on the secure side. Okay.
Great, great. Good to know that. Coming back to Mr. Abdullah, logistical difficulties and challenges in a multi-country operation from your perspective. Your business is flowing across various regions. So what are the challenges you are facing considering present scenario and overall?
Yeah, the challenges before 3 to 5 years was really different. Maybe the importance of those or ranking of it. So before we have faced the how to onboard the international customers, external entities from abroad, from GCC, from Europe. So we've been talking to central bank and show them the online onboarding procedure. And we had with a couple of financial companies has successfully automated fully the KYC onboarding with some manuality in the back office of the war check. But we are in the talk with big companies are specialized on that KYC onboarding industry, and they are connected with the big data and like Reuters and other couple companies. So we've trying to automate fully the KYC onboarding, and there will be like in parallel checking with our compliance of all the criteria that's set up. So these days, the financial industry and trading business is not suffering, is in the other way. We are like having maybe difficulties to accommodate the big number of investors who open accounts. So just to give you an example, we had an average like 2 to 3 accounts opening a day. Today we're talking about 20 to 25, and sometimes it's more. So we're more dealing with introducer brokers, with institutions, with companies that they onboard their clients, or they're having their own marketing brands. The challenges now is on transferring money. People suffering from certain companies on transferring money. That's due to also different regulations. So we're trying to overcome this problem by finding regulated either banks or digital wallets like PayPal, Neteller, or any other digital payment solution that's really working with the trading business companies. I think solution will come very soon is the cryptocurrency. And we saw that a couple of companies has a license in ADGM, but also they suffer that none of the banks wants to open account for them. And this is a big, really challenge. As you know, in UAE, you have several regulators. We have central bank, ADGM, and then we have also the offshore, the DMCC under ASCA, DGCX, DIFC. So all of this regulations, it's a good variety, but we think that there will be some change on the regulation from ASCAN Central Bank, where they will clearly allow or give like green light to all the banks to participate on that industry. As we know, also second really maybe major issue was the settlement, difference on time. So what we find solution on that, to find intermediate regulated companies, especially in UK, where they're having big various company branches on the major cities around the world. So they are doing the settlement on our behalf. So this was really the biggest challenges on opening accounts, on transferring money, problem with the correspondent banks, due diligence. Last and not least is the timing, taxation. But I think an active regulator would try to solve the problems with us. So we are in continuous talk with ASCA. We also participate on the revising the drafts of the regulations, and hopefully the next 2 years we'll find a big shift and minimize those challenges.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on. So, encouraging digital payments and this journey, it is most important that we encourage entrepreneurs, we encourage SMEs. My next question is to Vibhor. Vibhor, how Mashreq Bank is helping and encouraging through the digital payment platform these entrepreneurs and SMEs to make them feel secure. At the same time, they can have a free mind and come up with various options, various thought process, which will help the community.
So I already spoke about our digital-only bank for the SMEs, which is NeoBiz. We launched this after we had great success with our consumer-facing digital bank, Mashreq Neo. This is the only digital-only bank focus for SMEs. SMEs can come online, open their bank accounts. SMEs also face a lot of trouble today, as you talked about digital payments, right? So if you are a small company, it's very difficult for you to get, for example, a payment gateway to accept transactions, because if you're too small, large acquirers don't sign you up. You don't have the technical capability to integrate into the complex payment systems that we have today. The world of payments is evolving. It's no longer just accepting cards, but a lot more. Cards themselves are plastic. You have tokenized cards, plus you have a proliferation of digital wallets and alternate payment methods. So a SME finds it difficult to to get through the complex world of payments and payments acceptance, because let's be honest, the core business of an SME is to sell and do the core business. Payments should just be seamless, and it should just happen without the SME needing to worry about it. So we are probably one of the fastest growing acquirers. We are one of the fastest growing acquirers in MENA in the e-commerce space. And a lot of that growth has been led through our, ability to onboard SMEs. So every month we are onboarding hundreds of SMEs on our e-commerce platform. We use products from companies such as MasterCard. Plus, we have always been a bank which is very open to fintech partnerships. So we work with a lot of fintechs in the payments acceptance space, especially for e-com and smaller merchants, where we have partnerships where the onboarding for the customer is easier. We have solutions where we allow plug and play integrations into shopping carts. We allow a pre-integrated shopping cart along with a payment gateway, so that the SME can pretty much just upload the catalog and just get going. So these are a few things that we have, and very important piece is as the panelists were speaking about fraud, and we need to be, fraud trends are constantly evolving, and with the payments, the the world of payments being a little bit complex for a normal SME, they need support in fraud and risk management, and we do have products that help them. We have team members, consultants who can help them set up the right risk rules, etc., so that they can have a solution which caters to their need. Apart from that, we have built products not just for online. We have products for SMEs where we bundle VAT ready ERP solutions along with cash registers and point of sale terminals. This is very prevalent and relevant for small SMEs who really don't want to invest in enterprise ERP solutions. And this is a trend that we see globally. You have companies like Square, which are not just talking about payments, but the surrounding value-added services around payments. And we as Mashreq have a fairly robust platform, both for online merchants as well as for offline merchants. Again, we understand that it's not very easy to get a payment gateway. It has become easier over the last 3 to 4 years, but our partnerships in technology as well as through the fintechs or accelerators that we have talked about has helped us to onboard. We are pretty much onboarding 150 to 200 small merchants on our e-com platform every month. So those are the things that we are trying to do to accelerate the digitization and ability for SMEs to accept digital payments for their business. Another interesting thing that we have done is a lot of SMEs may not want to invest in websites. So we have built solutions where they can take payments through their social media pages. For example, you can have a page on Facebook where a SME can advertise a product, and we can seamlessly embed a payment link where the customer just clicks the payment link and doesn't need to log in to any website and just buy the product. Or newer solutions like invoice-based payments, one-click payments, where if there's a small SME and they want to collect payments, they can just send an invoice over an email or an SMS with a payment link embedded, and the payment can be completed. So the heavy lifting of building a website, etc., when the SME is very small, is taken care of by such solutions.
Great, Vibhor. Let me quickly go to Joseph. Joseph, we touched upon security features, various flexibility. Another very key term is open banking, and MasterCard and Visa would play their role, but at the same time, from a regulations perspective, there is a role to play. So what are your train of thoughts on this? Open banking.
Yeah, absolutely, Chitrajit. This is an extremely important topic in the overall scheme of the digital banking. And I must say, from a regulation perspective, open banking regulations starting shaping up. We have seen and I've heard a lot of governments started announcing about the open banking regulations. Governments started issuing EMI licenses, where entities are taking digital-led model and scaling it up to such as Monzo and Revolut that some of you may have heard of. Governments are also easing regulations towards customer onboarding, such as digital ID, eKYC, which is a major enabling factor to that. So banks in the past, they were prohibited because of the strict regulations. So governments are easing those regulations to allow that to happen. Policies are being introduced around cloud hosting. So they all go hand in hand. If you look at this, sequentially, they all go hand in hand. So the cloud hosting, like was announced, by Oman and Bahrain and Saudi governments. Banking going into API infrastructure is an extremely critical. It's a foundation, for open banking. Some of the banks, be it in the region or outside the region, think of open banking as a threat. On the contrary, we always look at the turning threats into opportunities, and to do so, you need to look at certain elements that do support you on riding that wave. Utilize APIs to flex systems to customer needs. APIs are the way of the future. Everybody's been already using APIs. And APIs are there, to continue. That's the future, and that must be used. If not already, it should be being used, starting now. Banks typically design flow-based on the system they already have in place. However, APIs allow the banks to shift the control to the end consumer rather than limiting what the user experience can offer based on system constraints. That's the difference with APIs. APIs allows banks to design the customer experience and what customer would like to see. More flexible technology, flex quickly if customer needs change, be able to adapt to what the customer needs rather than be limited to your technology. This is extremely important aspect that banks need to start looking at, as to you need to look at what are your customer needs rather than what are your system capabilities. Otherwise end consumers, they're going to leave you and move on to to your rivals. So it's the time to sit, look back, and try to see what you need to evolve on to from an infrastructure perspective. There are certain aspects that we will talk about in due course as well, as to what are the elements, success factors to look at from that angle.
Thank you. Very pertinent points, actually. Quickly go back to Shrikumar. Shrikumar, from OAB's journey, how relevant and significant P2P payments and instant payments are across various banks in Oman, from your bank's perspective?
Well, Oman is still a cash dominant market when it comes to micropayments and P2P payments. And the opportunities lying over there is extremely high. There are a lot of motivations from the part of the government. For example, recently they launched a mobile wallet solution, countrywide mobile wallet solution, where the data is being hosted centrally at the central bank side, and the government service also get integrated. This motivates a lot of micropayments, P2P payments, and also reduces the cost of transaction processing for the whole banks or whole member institutions in the ecosystem. We have a typical market in Matra, in Oman. I mean, somebody was asking for a typical example, so I could quote this, where a lot of micropayments are happening, and it's a least explored market space where acquirers moved in with AMPOS machines and tried to capture those markets, but those were not happening at a pace expected by the acquiring banks. Whereas when it comes to the mobile payments through MP Clear, I mean mobile banking clearing system, which is developed by central bank, which hosts the wallets of the issuers as well as acquirers. I mean, the merchant as well as the cardholder, I mean the customer is holding it in the same system, whereas the balances are maintained at the the respective customers' bank's core banking systems. The MP Clear system and the mobile wallets launched recently seems to be extremely successful in enhancing the number of P2P payments into the payment ecosystem. Previously, most of them were cash rich, but now it has become P2P electronic transactions through MP Clear, central bank's MP Clear system. So there is a lot of opportunities within that and a lot of government initiatives supporting us. So I believe exploring further in this area would be a suggested way forward.
Thank you. Let's move on, and I will go to Mr. Abdullah. You mentioned at the outset that cryptocurrency is coming up in a big way. So what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency and the associated challenges of accepting or embracing cryptocurrency in various geographies?
I think we have to look to the country movement. Since the blockchain has the strategy and roadmap in 2016 and 2017 from the local government and federal government in UAE, especially Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they want most of the entities to put their data on the blockchain. And I will just give one example. RERA in Dubai has really successfully most of Dubai lands now on blockchain. And this is really a good foundation. So cryptocurrency, we believe that UAE want to support that industry and to take part. They saw a couple of countries, and there were some visits, official visits to Silicon Valley and to other European countries. And we saw that there is really demand on that side, but there is always a fear on that side also. So they saw a successful story happen in Japan and Switzerland and other countries where they had a very regulated criteria. There is a big banks like Signature Bank in US. They have developed a sophisticated criteria and a really detailed one to onboard exchanges, payment solutions, customers even, and they have now the future exchange on Bitcoin. There is also the bonds, other financial instruments are on Luxembourg exchange. So we think that the first step happening now in ADGM, there is, I have a draft of the ASCA regulations that it will be discussed always, and they were having regular meetings with the central bank. I think the fear and challenges is lack of central authority. Also, the fear of the same thing that it can be used on cash or crypto on money laundering. The fear of on scammers, on the source of the crypto. But I think what happened in many countries like US, Hong Kong, Singapore, even Estonia, we have also a small project with the Philippine payment solution. We find that people, community, even small 7-Elevens are accepting those crypto. So I think we should have a hygiene between centralized and decentralized approach on that industry. And starting in ADGM, a couple of companies we saw in one ATM was in a crypto ATM in Abu Dhabi, but those are really lacking, needing a government support in terms of legislation, a clear instruction or understanding to the banks how they will deal with it. Our experience on the OTC market, that there is room for making big monies and commissions and profit for the banks or financial industries, but we have to work together to find and to agree on certain process and criteria, because an example of many countries where the transferring money is very difficult, like in East or in Eastern Europe or in Middle East, we find that they use another alternatives. And all of us, we know that billions of money are lost, no one paying tax, and middlemen always are solving the problem. So I think with the cryptocurrencies, with a certain regulation, we will find a good solution on that matter. We find a couple of initiatives, NetTeller and other payment solution, they embedded crypto, redeeming crypto in their wallet. So this is a big step. In Europe, I was visiting UK and Europe. I find that people now buying so much of their really products and groceries by cryptocurrency. So I think it's a matter of time. People are trading, people are buying and selling, but I think it will be, this fears has to be solved. And I think we all know that there will be a couple of projects between GCC countries, UAE and Saudi Arabia. They announced the cryptocurrency that it will be centralized between each other. And this is just a start. So we have to be prepared. And we cannot deny that until now, the crypto, the Bitcoin, the decentralized is proven that it's secure. And blockchain, all of us agree that it's a wonderful technology. And when people use it in finance, it's becoming more really demand. So we think that it will happen.
Okay. Okay, great. So moving on, we have two more subjects to focus upon. I'm going straight to Joseph. Joseph, what we are seeing as the main or key enablers from digital payments perspective, what do you see from MasterCard perspective as the key associates for to enable or embrace digital payments?
Okay. So basically, understanding and embracing the move towards digital, mindset is inevitable, right? Here are four key, parts that we believe should be looked at very closely for banks to embrace on the digital future. And those are of extreme importance. Adaptability, which is basically ensuring that your organization is able to adapt quickly to the rapid evolution of the post-COVID world, right? So we're living right now in the COVID situation where everybody's evolving into digital. So if not already, you need to start planning for that. Scalability. It is important to be able to scale efficiently while providing the appropriate amount of resources to each application and its requirements. Third, data. In order to build strong relationships with your customers, it is vital to properly utilize the data available. And I don't know if you guys, some of you may have heard that data is the new oil. Data is extremely critical. If you don't have the updated information, if you don't have data available for your customers, they won't be able to transact and work with you. Customer experience is also of extreme importance. All of the previous points tie into a seamless consumer experience. Ensuring that your customers have the best experience possible is vital to your success. Now, from a MasterCard perspective, there are two things that are of extreme importance that we look at first to ensure the adoption. One is the ease of use, customer experience, and the second part is the security around that. So in our own world, we call it simple and secure, right? And this is of extreme importance that as when you're looking at those four key elements that I talked about, it has to be simple to ensure adoption and secure, so customers are aware that their money is safe and it's secure. Banks need to have a complete relook at their current infrastructure, which I've talked about. APIs, as I talked about, the API framework, supporting instant card issuance, instant money transfers, consumers' queries, leveraging the chatbot, and some other fundamental technologies, to be looking at. One additional part is the people and support. So either you have to, retrain your existing, workforce, or introduce a new workforce who have that kind of a new mindset, like those fresh talents that they would be able to cater for the increased demands of your customers as you're moving into the digital world.
And if you just touch upon a bit more from MasterCard's perspective, what you are doing to enable banks on digital banking. So what are your initiatives?
Okay, so there are series of initiatives. I can probably talk about one or two of them. So MasterCard capabilities varies from products to services. As I mentioned earlier, we're no longer a scheme per se. We're evolved into a technology company. So product services is the core of what we write on the MasterCard network, and the brand is the additional services and products that we offer. Which is fronted by our advisory arm. I'm sure some of you who deal with MasterCard must have heard of the MasterCard advisors, function. So we do have an advisory arm who is, one of the main pillars that are helping us in the digital banking. And one example, which is the new bank in Brazil. Various products and services like digital first. We have seen, and there's been some reference about the neo banks. We have seen a lot of banks coming to us and saying we would like to evolve into a neo bank. So from a MasterCard perspective, our advisory teams They would be able to sit down with the bank, study, look at the strategy, and provide advice, planning, put the strategy together and the framework on how to evolve into a digital banking, riding on some of the existing products and services offered by MasterCard. We've been acquiring series of companies to support, so we are no longer restricted into just the cards payments, but we are now evolved into any electronic payments. Like, for example, artificial intelligence, cyber security. I can talk about one of the latest acquisitions of New Detect. And New Detect, it's like an application, it's like an SDK, sits on the phone. It will be able to track the behavior. So if my phone gets utilized by someone else, using the artificial intelligence, it will be able to track the pattern you type, how you tilt the phone, do you hold the phone with your two hands, with one hand, and so on and so forth. Those are extremely important elements that one has to take into consideration as you're getting into digital banking, because that will allow the quick adoption from end consumer.
Thank you, Joseph. Quickly go back to Shrikumar. Shrikumar, a lot of efforts and initiatives being taken by OAB. How you are aligning those with central bank's regulation and various new elements coming from central bank in terms of rules. So how you are aligning with that?
When we started our digital banking journey, we did a total in-house evaluation of where do we stand with respect to the flexibility of our existing legacy systems, adaptability, scalability of the existing systems, usage of APIs in our environment, the UI, UX experience of our customers, all those things we have done. However, the CBO, the Central Bank of Oman regulations come up later on. So what we did, we started our digital journey earlier than the regulations came up, and I'm sure that's the case in most of the markets. So by the time the regulations comes, we have to change a lot. And several elements which was initially given an approval from the part of the regulators were being re-looked into, building extremely difficult conditions to be met before enabling those digital services. So being first, we were forced to stop some of our offerings from the initial stage. Then we looked into it, we reworked on it, and we corrected that and we made it live later on. However, central bank has gone faster from that level. For the last 3 to 4 years, they're coming up heavily with guiding the banks left, right, and center on new things. In fact, you can see that data centralization was one of their prime objectives, and that has led them to come up with various requirements well in advance so that the banks won't suffer. So with respect to mandatory requirements from central bank, as you know, every bank has to obey within that turnaround times specified by the regulators. Those things are there. At the same time, you are given sufficient flexibility and time frame to implement those things. So we are at par with CBO requirements so far, and we have been guided properly well in advance by central bank with respect to the upcoming initiatives, and we also have the bankers forum within Oman to guide us in this. So we are well versed with that.
Thank you. So the last section of our discussion. So if you gentlemen can share 2 points on key development areas in terms of immediate how we can move forward with digital payments and digital banking in the region. And also, what do you see 5 years down the road where we will be standing together? So I will start with Vibhor, and then I will go around the room.
Thanks. I think the most important thing, bank of the future, and no one has a crystal maze, but what we clearly can see is that one big thing that needs to change is a cultural and mind shift change, right? Bank needs the cultural as well as the mind shift change of people who are running the bank, and that's the most important thing as we move in the next 4 to 5 years towards the journey of digitization. That's one important pillar, and that would mean, as Joseph has already talked about, reskilling of people. The banks of today, in terms of the kind of people that work in banks, would not be the same mix in the banks, which is 4 to 5 years down the line. So we increasingly see more technologists, more customer experience professionals being embedded in a bank. And Mashreq started this journey earlier, and we have our own digital studio where we recruit. We have people who are from varied backgrounds, like technologists, UI UX experts, design experts, design thinking experts. So banks need to have that mindset and mind shift change, and that would also entail the workforce being changed. So that's one big thing, that would happen in the bank of the future or digital banks of the future. And of course, when you talk about technology, I think a lot has already been said. We truly believe that you need to be not just digital outside, which is the UI UX for the consumers, but you need to be digital inside. And infrastructures of banks need to evolve with not traditional legacy systems, but systems which are more API-able, systems which are led by microservices, systems on the cloud, systems which are scalable. Because the pace of product development, banks would start getting compared. So the consumers will start comparing banks, if not already, to the other technology companies with which they interact. And hence banks need to be ready to build out solutions quicker, faster, with the right UI UX. So the whole technology stack would change with the stuff that we talked about. It will become more modular. Products could be rolled out quicker. And another key pillar will be data, as Joseph has already said. Data and AI-driven decisions. To do a lot of things. What is the next best product that a customer needs, to KYC AML, to transaction monitoring. So a lot of data, AI will be at the heart of the new age bank. The three key pillars that I would see is the mindset, mind shift change with the right talent coming in, and the mix of people who are bankers typically changing, and banks ready to embrace that. Second is the whole technology stack coming into moving into the new age piece. And what this does is, an interesting point was made on open banking. Is open banking a threat or an opportunity? And large banks have now started to invest, where they have realized that fintechs are not just competition. Fintechs may not be competition, but you need to collaborate with them. Fintechs can't coexist without banks. Maybe banks can't coexist without fintechs. And then this collaboration can come through when you have the right platform and mindset. And lastly, you need to look at data. Data is the new oil. Most of the folks on the webinar would agree, and banks would be able to use this data well. Many times there is so much data within banks, the data is not even in the right cleaned up in the right architecture to really be used. So we are investing a lot of money and time in cleaning up our data, ability of the data to be available to various businesses. Data driven models, next best product, etc. So these are the few things that I would say the banks of the future would look at, and that's how the banks would compete going forward.
Thank you, Vibhor. Going back to Mr. Abdullah, what are your thought process on two key elements to improve digital payments in the region, especially UAE, and where do you see ourselves 5 years down the line?
Yeah, I think we have to work together. We will compete. There is room for competition between banks or financial companies, but there should be also a room for working together. There was a big initiative in the government in Emirates Digital Wallet, and I was really following this project last 3 years. But where were 16 banks, including Mashreq, ADCB, Adib, and FAB. This initiative also allow customers who have just an ID, does not need even to open bank account. I want just to use it as a credit card or a Visa card, just a redeeming. So many countries in Europe, the transferring money now, it's just numbers and settlement between the banks. So we have to come to such initiatives. What we do in Noor, in many countries now, we don't need to open any branch anywhere. We will partnership with our, let us say, competitor. So this is things that we are working with. We signed with more than maybe 12 companies in UK, in Europe, in GCC, where we are really participating to each other and trying to compromise together our business and gets the benefits from each other. So I think this is something we needed from the banks. Each bank, like I will just give you an example. And we have in every city in UAE, there is like 25 or 30 government entities. One of the things that we found, and now the government are trying to solve this problem last 3-5 years, every entity was working separately on their digitalization, except two things, two programs, the HR, which was centralized, and the finance. But all of other, from the other departments like strategy or operation or projects, we were investing heavily, hundreds of millions. So this is what happened now with every bank. And second thing in UAE, last 21, first year, 22 years, there was an excellence program in the government. There was FQM, there was 7-star. So we find that government are pushing to having all of these services to have it in one platform. So they pick the highest transaction and they put it in one platform, but it's not solving still the main issue. So I believe this is one of the criteria, and this is one of the things we need a clear roadmap from partnership between the government and the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So to Shrikumar, that's the last question which we have for you. What are your thought process on any key elements regarding digital banking and digital payments? And where do you see yourself 5 years down the line in terms of OAB and the bank in the GCC?
Right. We did mention about the adaptability, scalability, usage of APIs and other things. And like what Joseph said, simple and secure should going to be the logo, the slogan for the digital banking in the banks in the Middle East. And one key element which I think we also need to mention is the end-to-end process transformation. Banks are started heavily using robotic process automations in various elements. But some sort of coordination, like what Mr. Abdullah said, some sort of coordination even within the bank has to start first. Otherwise, a lot of investments are being made here and there without getting the required benefits the program is looking for. So an end-to-end process transformation leading to a simple, secure solution for the customers means more responsive network, more smoother and simple network to the customer requirements. Those sort of things are going to make the bank to the next level of digital transformation. They start demanding digital services for their conveniences, and it should also be secure for them. And in the next 5 years, we're going to go behind. Maybe as per our retail banking strategy, which is devised some 7 years back, we relook into such priorities on a daily basis. Customer is the key in our development. Secure and simple is the slogan. And we also look into end-to-end process transformation. I think this will lead us into a leading role in the coming years.
Great, great. So that ends our discussion on the topics, but we received certain pertinent questions. So I will take one question for all of you to answer. Probably, if you can, individually, if you can share one example of digital banking and your initiative towards digital banking, from your organization's perspective, what OAB or MasterCard or Noor or Mashreq Bank have taken in last 1 year time to embrace digital payments in the community. I will start with Mr. Abdullah.
Yeah, the main concern was with us is the KYC onboarding. And I would say before the end of this year, the first quarter of next year will be fully automated with the word check. So as soon the customer register his name, all the process will be automated and there will be only a checker and approval. And it's everything. We have reduced the number of paper that we're using 90%. So no need now to print and save. All the agreements, all the terms are online. And we also approve consider the digital signature. And a couple of cases, we have shared that with government entities, it was approved. Regarding the trading and the execution, this is the part that was successfully fully automated. We don't have a dealing desk. It's all, we route the orders directly to our aggregator, to the banks. We cover all our positions, the client positions. So in that terms, we really proud to increase only the manpower on the service side. We don't think that machines or programs should replace the employee. We should just restructure our organization. We did not decrease the number, we increased the number of, we just hiring 10 people this year, and we are looking to hire more 15 people next year. So we think the main assets is people. So we have to focus on them, teach them, and find the way that for them to change and to adapt change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Go back to Shrikumar. Any particular example you have in mind which OAB has taken in last 1 year time?
I did mention about the micropayment solutions using MPOS facilities to the merchants within the Mathura market. I did mention, which seems to be an extremely successful story. Apart from that, what I could say is like end-to-end lifecycle management of various card products, debits, credits, including the reward loyalty accounts. The customer can manage their products, their limits, their transactions, the country limits, the transaction limits, pin set, reset. The end-to-end lifecycle of those products which we introduced through our simple mobile banking solution is also taken as a very successful one in our digital transformation journey.
Thank you. Joseph, quick thoughts?
Yeah, well, a series of them, but I'll just talk about one example is the remittance. I talked about some acquisitions that MasterCard has done in the past, and then about our evolution into a technology company. Again, one of the acquisition examples that you would talk about is the Transfast, which is a remittance engine right now that's embedded into the MasterCard networks. So remittance is a key element as well, and a customer and consumer need right now, especially with the evolution of COVID-19. If we take a step back and we look at, the WPS, or, the laborers, the blue collar laborers that they're getting their salaries, where they go to cash, an ATM, withdraw cash, drive, or, go to exchange houses to remit money. But right now, with all the technology, with digital banking evolution, we are able, and we have, done series of, deployments, within the region and outside the region as well, to enable remittances while you're sitting at home, irrespective, whether you're a bank or unbanked customer, irrespective whether you have a card. Because, as I talked about, evolving into a technology company, we're moving away, not just not being into the cards business. So the remittances from our perspective right now could be card to card, could be card to account, card to cash, and vice versa. So again, touching on the points mentioned earlier, that mindset infrastructure are of extreme importance to success, to get into, digital, banking.
Thank you. And lastly, Vibhor, your points.
So I've already spoken about NeoBiz and Neo. I'll just quickly talk about a couple of examples which are related and which are at the heart of our digitization journey as a bank. So we have launched a fully digital card NTB card sales engine. So today, a consumer can go online or on the mobile app and complete the application, get the card approved, and the card is delivered. So this is fully digital. Um, uh, of course, we reuse a lot of microservices, and that helps us. That has helped us build this. And in line with that, we have also launched a fully digital account opening. So today, you can open a Mashreq account fully digitally without visiting a branch, without giving any physical piece of paper. So those are the two we believe two very key digitization initiatives, apart from the couple of others that I spoke about. And now we are looking at enhancing it further and looking at newer stuff like for authentication using liveliness testing, liveliness detection, etc. So those are the few points that I would like to make in terms of what new stuff that we have done.
Okay, I'll just spend another 2 minutes, gentlemen. One very pertinent question coming up from Hamand, and he is asking whether digital signature would be embraced by the regulators. So I'll start with Vibhor. Any thought on this?
Yes, I think regulation is also evolving, and you would have, sooner rather than later, regulators would start allowing digital signatures, not just digital signatures, but banks in other parts of the world. If you look at countries like India, a lot of large banks are doing eKYC through liveliness detection, etc. So I think it's a matter of time, and definitely not just e-signature, but other ways of identifying your customer digitally would be something that regulators as well as banks would embrace.
Okay, go to Joseph. Joseph, any quick thoughts on digital signature and embracing digital signature?
I mean, my personal view, also from my experience, regulators are easing out the regulations. We've started seeing this, from the regulations around open banking to regulations into KYC, because in the past, we do talk quite often to regulators. KYC was moving away from the face-to-face, and the physical KYC was the only means that was allowed by regulators. And now we're seeing the regulators are easing out the regulations to move into that kind of direction. I wouldn't be surprised to see that digital signatures will evolve soon after, and especially that this is something that's being used for years in Europe. I do personal banking with so many banks offshore in Europe, and digital banking is something that's already an existing service. So eventually it will definitely come, for sure.
Okay. Quickly go to Shrikumar. Your thoughts on digital signature?
See, within Oman, so far it's not yet being accepted, but there has been a lot of discussions with the regulators going on. A combination of biometric credentials is being validated along with a digital signature. That's where the thought process is happening as of now. Like what Joseph said, a lot of listeners is going to come up into this area. And I believe sooner or later, the regulators are going to come up with their standards and requirements with respect to digital signatures. We need to wait until then.
Great, very valid point. Going to Mr. Abdullah.
Yeah, I just put also a link from Tamimi. In the government, we were using since 2007 the electronic signature, but there is some documents are not approved. So there is the law number 1 of 2006 regarding electronic transaction and e-commerce, the federal one. They allow, but they have put some conditions on it. it should be secured, it should be proven. So like Microsoft Adobe, a model of that will be approved that. But certain transaction, they said until now, it needs presence, like deeds of title, immovable properties, or some attestation needs. Nowadays in COVID, that's also changed. I've made a power of attorney through Zoom, and it was tested and it was proven. So I think the electronic signature is there, and it's proven between the government, and we use it between financial advice, between the financial companies, but to a certain extent. But I think it needs just to have to complete the regulation regarding the security and the proven that this guy used that. So in Europe, they use 4 or 5 factors: Google or Microsoft, face recognition and voice, whatever. So there are so many really proven cases, and I think within 1 year, 2 years, it will be there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Before we conclude, 2 more points from our side. We will send you a survey, so we would request your inputs on that survey. We are heading straight from here to Africa, and we will conduct another session on digital payments in Africa. So thank you so much for your time. And before we conclude, another very important point, special thanks to my colleague, Nadia, who is working behind the curtain to make this session painless and very smooth. So thanks a lot, Nadia, and thank you everybody for your time and your participation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.